I wanted to say thank you for the reception on the first video. That was meant to be more of a trial run for these types of presentations going forward. Didn't expect it to get very many views, but it got more engagement than I was expecting. There were lots of positive comments, good feedback in the comment section, and a couple hundred people decided to subscribe to the channel as well, which I really appreciate. Thank you very much. My time is rather limited, but I will be allocating more of it to YouTube activities going into 2025, so do subscribe to the channel and be on the lookout for new stuff. I will be at SHOT Show next week in Las Vegas. If you see me, say hello. I'll be out on the show floor checking out all the new stuff. It looks like it's going to be a good year for new products. Hopefully I'll be able to get my hands on a lot of it in 2025 for evaluation and for upload onto this channel. So again, stay tuned. I hope you guys have a great SHOT Show, and I hope you have a great beginning to your 2025. Enjoy the video. Today I wanted to talk to you about 3 of the most popular big window competition style red dot sights for pistol application. We have the Trijicon SRO, the Holosun 507 comp, and the new Vortex Defender XL here on the table. I've been shooting with these dots for a while now, or these types. The SRO I've had for a long time. I have 15 to 20,000 rounds on that. About 10K on the 507 comp, and then the XL is new to me, so I have only about 2,500 rounds on it at the moment. But I want to share my thoughts with you guys and just sort of evaluate these red dots in comparison to each other, so you have a good idea of what you should probably be buying going into 2025. Something I want this channel to be a little bit more about is to be thorough and explicit about reasonings for things. Why do we want a big window on the red dot? That might seem like an obvious question, but even if it is, it's worth actually digging in and being, again, explicit about the reasoning for these things so we can be absolutely clear in objectives and outcomes. So with that, I want to harken back to something that I said in the first video, the enclosed pistol red dot comparison video. In that video, I said the window size on a red dot sight on the handgun actually doesn't matter at all. That caused at least one shit fit in the comments, maybe more. Thank you for the engagement, by the way, appreciate that. I'd like to go back and kind of revise that statement. I think I was speaking a little bit too off the cuff in that particular moment, and probably in that whole video, to be honest with you. When I'm talking about the acro and I'm saying window size doesn't matter, what I mean is that with a properly developed index, whether you have an acro or the SRO, you should be able to look at a spot on the target you want to shoot, present the gun, and the dot should arrive in your vision with minimal conscious alignment on your part. If that isn't the case for you, if you're constantly having to search for the red dot to find it, please recognize that that is a problem that you should want to fix. You're doing it wrong if that's the case, and I don't mean that in a mean way. The good news, my friends, is that this index that we develop costs nothing but your time and attention to train. And there's lots of good instructors who are making videos on this type of thing that can help you get better at this. It's a simple thing to train, and like I say, it is the foundational skill in red dot pistol shooting. Please understand this. While you don't want to be looking at the red dot while you're shooting, it's very beneficial to be aware of the movement of the dot in the window to analyze the behavior of the gun. That's another reason why we want a red dot sight on a pistol, is as a real-time diagnostic tool. Being able to judge and observe the trace of the red dot tells you about how you're doing in terms of your connection to the pistol and informs you on your ability to carry a high rate of fire on a target at a given size or distance. You'll hear people say that the big window red dots help them find the dot quicker. The way that you want to conceptualize this benefit with the big window is that you're not finding the dot quicker. You would hopefully see it all the same at the end of the presentation, but you are seeing it sooner. With more area to observe the dot within, as you are drawing the gun to the target, it appears in your awareness sooner. So yes, with the big window, you have more room to actually observe the recoil trace of the red dot. That helps you in analyzing your shooting in real time, and the bigger window enables you to see the dot sooner on the presentation so that you have generally more awareness about where the gun is pointed. You're able to get it on target a little bit faster, all else being equal. So as these larger window dots seem to be the way open emitter optics are just going at the moment, I think it's worth taking a look at some of the most prominent examples right now, because I think these ones, you can kind of see the trajectory in terms of how the market is going, and I think that these newer ones will really shape the direction that we're headed for pistol red dots going into the future. I think you really have to start this discussion with the Trijicon SRO, the specialized reflex optic. So the SRO was introduced in 2019, so pretty early compared to the other models. The other manufacturers have been left playing catch up for a little bit, but they definitely have, which you'll see later on. So the SRO here is mounted on a very cool CZ P10F done up by Jaegerworks. Pretty awesome gun, cast member that I don't shoot enough. The SRO really set a lot of standards for what we expect on a big window red dot like this. A lot of the expectations in terms of quality and also lack of durability come from the SRO. So it's really worth spending some time on to understand what makes this dot what it is and its place in the market today. The SRO shares its mounting footprint with the Trijicon RMR. So this is RMR footprint optic. One of the most common that you will see today is the RMR footprint. So that's a big win for the SRO right up front. You're able to put this on a lot of different pistols right out of the gate. We have a top load 2032 battery in that little tray right there, which differs from the Trijicon RMR in that you do not have to take the whole unit off of the pistol slide to replace the battery, which is a big win. This 2032 battery has a quoted life of 25,000 hours. That has not been my experience. My protocol is to change the batteries on all my red dots on my birthday. So about 1 year of battery life is what I expect. The SRO consistently does not do that for me. I have to change the battery sometime throughout the year. That's been my experience multiple years in a row now. About at the 1 year mark or slightly before, it dies and I have to replace the battery. That usually isn't my experience with other dots. These come in a couple different options for size of the dot. This is the SRO2 that has the 2.5 MOA dot. I really like that size. It does come in a 1 MOA dot or a 5. The SRO does have quite a, I guess you could call it pedigree, right guys? It's been on the market for a long time and people really like it in the competition space. You can see it on pistols like the Terran Tactical Sand Viper or Pit Viper, whatever the bronze 2011 compensator pistol that they make is. Those are cut for the SRO specifically, and what I mean by that is you have this overhang on the window, which we'll talk about in a moment, but you want to cut these slides as low as you can in order to get that window kind of down close to the slide. That feels really good, especially on this P10F. Man, it's nice how low that you can get the dot in there. Jaegerworks does an amazing job cutting the CZ P10s, but a lot of these pistols are cut from the factory specifically for the SRO. The big circular window is something that the SRO is famous for, and it's one of the reasons why people like it so much. The big circle just works really well with my brain. I really like the shape of it. That being said, that circular shape lends to one of the biggest negatives on the SRO, and that is going to be the durability. Say it with me, everybody. Not intended for duty use.
Did he say it was good for duty use? So it's good for duty, right?
The SRO definitely is more fragile than other red dots in general. Not really because of the size of the window, but mostly the shape. That big circle works really well with my brain. It looks amazing. It feels great to shoot with the SRO, but that big circle is not very structurally sound. If you drop this thing right on the top, the glass will shatter. Most likely. I have seen it happen. I've witnessed it. Somebody drops the SRO or just their pistol falls off the table at the range, falls at the wrong angle, glass shatters. This is real. The SRO will totally break. The image is very flat. It's not very blue. I know I'm aiming at a blue surface right now, but it's not too distorted. Definitely not as bad as something like the RMR or RCR, which are like looking through a goddamn fishbowl. I've always been happy with the brightness of the dot on the SRO. I would not be mad if it got a little bit brighter. Now, something that I want to mention about the dot on the SRO is the double dot phenomenon. What that is when you're aiming directly into the sunlight, if it's coming in at kind of a low angle, the sunshine will kind of splash into the emitter housing there and cause these crazy like red streaks coming out all around the window. You have multiple dots in the window. It's kind of difficult when you're coming up to the target quick to get your sight picture. I was shooting a falling plates match actually just a couple days ago, and there were a couple dudes with SROs, and here on this range the sun comes in right over the mountain at a low angle in the morning, and yeah, they had a really bad time with the SRO because they're putting the wrong little fleck of red LED light on the plates, and of course that's going to be a miss. We have buttons on the left and right side of the window here. The buttons themselves are a little bit mushy. I wouldn't mind if they were a little bit more clicky and nice. I think the RCR and RMR HD do a better job of this in my experience. We do have 6 daylight settings and 2 night vision settings on this not for duty use red dot. I wish the brightness settings were more granular. I wish there were more settings that were a little bit less different. Does that make sense? I wish I could get to a brightness setting in between the ones that exist right now. Now the price on the SRO, this is kind of more expensive than it should be, which is the case for lots of Trijicon products. MSRP on these is gonna be $783, which is crazy. On the general market though, I mean, you can find these for like 550 bucks, which is okay, but still a lot more than the other options. Now I am gonna start talking about the other two red dots here, and you're gonna hear me speak pretty highly of them in comparison to the SRO, definitely in terms of value and modern features in terms of getting what you want in 2025 out of a pistol red dot. I think you can do better than the SRO. However, I do want to mention one more reason why somebody might want the SRO despite that fact, and that is what Lieutenant Colonel Nut and Fancy calls second kind of cool. Second cool is when you feel an intrinsic aesthetic value in something and enjoy it despite a better or higher value option maybe being available. The SRO is very cool aesthetically. It's distinct, it's expensive, and it's made by Trijicon, one of the biggest names in optics manufacturing today. So if all that just speaks to you and it comes together in a way that you want, I say go for it. If you got the money to spend, keep some extra batteries in your range bag and don't drop it. SRO still works really well, but I do think that there are some better options available. Okay, up next we have the SRO killer. It's the Holosun 507 comp, mounted on a basic Glock 47. Nice little functional setup here. The HS 507 comp. What is Holosun's problem with naming these products? Whatever, that's fine. The 507 comp. So this thing came out in 2023, and it caused quite a stir when it came out because it was really meant to be the SRO killer. When they say 507 comp, that is for competition. They are coming for the throne of the competitive shooter's optic, which was held by the SRO at the time. And man, I don't know if we've seen such an effective dethroning from one of these, you know, major product killers out there as the 507 comp. This has really taken the spot for the go-to option for competition shooters. One of the reasons why it has done so well, taking the spot of the SRO, is that it is RMR footprint. It is the same mounting pattern as the SRO. So if you have a pistol that has an RMR footprint on it, or a plate that can do RMR, why get an SRO? And you could get a 507 comp that does all the same things, but arguably better for less money. One of the more interesting things on the 507 comp is the battery mounting solution and the battery itself. So instead of a 2032, we have a 1632 battery that mounts into this little tray right here. It's a transverse mounted tray. Now I will come in with a drawback to the 507 comp right here. This little screw right here that holds the battery compartment in, make sure you Loctite that, because this little screw will walk itself out under the forces of shooting your pistol. And if that screw gets lost, you're not in a great position there. So use a little bit of Loctite. I don't really like having to do that. It feels sort of sketchy putting Loctite in your battery compartment, but that's the way it kind of needs to be on the 507 comp. Just make sure you're careful with that screw. Don't strip it, Loctite it, tighten it snugly, but not overly tight. This battery, despite being smaller than the 2032, is quoted at 50,000 hours of battery life, which I think is more than the SRO. And I have never had a 507 comp die. I've had 3 of them and none of them have ever died on me, which is really awesome. Let's talk dot itself. So we have a 2 MOA red dot here. Something that you'll notice on the 507 comp is that it has a metric shit ton of reticle options, meaning that you have all these ridiculous circles that you can activate. Let me see if I can do this. Okay, so here's your 2 MOA dot. This is what you should be using. And then if I hold the minus button, we're gonna see this insane parade of larger and larger rings. So there's a small ring, medium ring, big ring, and now we go to dot with small ring, dot with medium ring, big ring with dot, big ring with dot and medium ring, and then back to the single dot. This is ridiculous. I would be in kind of a state of neutral dislike if this didn't cost more to have. If you look at something like the EPS, you have a MRS, multiple reticle system like this, or non-MRS version that you can buy, and the non-MRS version costs less. Why can't I do this with the 507 comp? Yeah, I think these rings are absolutely a gimmick. Okay, big ass circle, here we go. These not only do not help you shoot better, they actively hurt your shooting performance if you're shooting properly, where you're target focused and kind of watching the dot bounce off the targets and reacting to the color more than anything else. Why am I shooting so slow on these guys? It's because the circle isn't big enough. Now it's bigger. Whenever I use these big ring reticles, when I'm seeing that red come down, I'm pulling the trigger almost prematurely because I'm seeing that bottom edge of the ring come down and I'm shooting high off the target because I'm seeing the red. That's my signal that I should be pulling the trigger and I'm gonna miss the target. You should have a single discrete aiming point. Don't do the rings. Okay, rant over. Let's talk about the window itself. So this is a big square. Hopefully you can see that. This is more viewing area than the SRO and more structurally sound. These have proven themselves to actually be quite durable. You can go check out Hunter Constantine throwing these things 100 feet in the air and they survive. Like it's pretty impressive. The glass itself is quite low distortion. Never has been an issue for me. So that's awesome. The buttons themselves, I think this is probably my favorite button setup. I like that we have 2 buttons on the left side. So for my fire and grip, if I want to change my my brightness settings, I can just go click, 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 click. And instead of having to turn the whole thing over and then take my hand off the pistol, I really like that I can just come up and do it here. That's awesome. I think that we should do more of this. So we have, again, just like the SRO, 6 daylight settings and then 2 night vision settings, which is nice. Again, I wish it were more granular. And on the 507 comp in particular, this dot does not get bright enough. I wish there were 1 or 2 more brightness settings above the top setting here. When I'm shooting into bright daylight, especially here in the winter in Wyoming, the brightness conditions are pretty harsh and this dot is not cutting it. So if we could just get a little bit brighter of a top setting there, that would be great, but I don't know if you can with the 1632 battery. Like that might just be a concession that we're making to have that smaller battery. MSRP on these is $435. Find them online for $350 to $375. That's a great price. That's a great price for this type of optic. I think the price is right on this. You're not gonna break the bank super hard and you're getting an amazing product. One final thing I wanna complain about on the 507 comp before I end with my mostly positive impressions on this is the aesthetic presentation of the 507 comp. I think it could be a lot better, and it actually has been done a lot better. Holosun can't seem to escape this perception of being like a shitty Chinese airsoft tier optics manufacturer, which I absolutely think is not true. They have proven themselves to be one of the leading manufacturers of red dots in the last 3 or 4 years or so now. However, presentations like this do not do them any favors, where you have these tacky white logos and especially the circle reticles. This used to be one of the ways that you would identify a red dot as a shitty Amazon airsoft tier optic, is with all the multiple changeable reticles and stuff. You didn't find those on serious optics. Both of these things, I think, just give an air of unprofessionalism to the 507 comp that I really wish it didn't have to have. And it doesn't. I want to give a surprising shout out to the Ronin Tactics Edition 507 comp, which does both of these things. If you look at the Ronin 507 comp, it has subdued black engraved logos, kind of murdered out look like the SRO, which is what you want, and less circle reticles. So shout out to that. However, it is an influencer branded product, so I would never want to be seen in public with one. From what I have seen from Holosun's announcements of their new products coming this year at SHOT Show, they seem to be going that direction of no more white logos, no more weird tacky branding. They seem to be having more of a focus on professional presentation, which I really appreciate. It might not seem like it matters, but it really does to a lot of people, and to me included. I really appreciate a more professional seeming product. Despite my criticisms of the aesthetics and some of my small gripes, especially about the brightness of the dot, I think that this is probably one of the best open emitter red dots that you can get right now. Buy with confidence. I think Holosun is going in the right direction. They are continuing to go in the right direction. So those are my thoughts on the 507 comp. Definitely a big recommend, something that I'm going to be buying more of. And finally, we have the new Vortex Defender XL, mounted on the absolutely breathtaking Dan Wesson DWX. What an awesome setup this is. Vortex has finally discovered how to make red dot sights, which is very good news for all of us who like high quality optics. In 23, they released the Defender CCW, which is RMSC Holosun K pattern footprint for, let's be honest, the SIG P365s. I was really impressed with that product. I have one of those. It is a very nice, high quality red dot with amazing packaging, by the way. And in 2024, we have the Vortex Defender ST, standard size, and the XL big window dot, which is what we have right here. The first thing I want to say about the Defender XL is to address the mounting footprint. This is a Delta Point Pro footprint optic, which a lot of people look at immediately and say, I would rather it was RMR. I thought that too, but I want to go through a little bit of my research and kind of talk about why this might not be such a bad thing and why this might in fact be the way to do it. The Delta Point Pro is bigger than the RMR physically in terms of how much space you have on the footprint here. So it can accept optics with a larger base that can easily take a top mounted battery. The RMR footprint was designed for, of course, the Trijicon RMR, which is small, and the battery is mounted underneath the optic and squished into the battery compartment when you mount it onto the slide. We're not gonna go back there. We are gonna have to have a top-mounted battery or a side tray like the 507 comp going forwards. The SRO does that for us, where we have an RMR footprint optic that has a top-mounted battery. However, with all the electronics, the battery cap, emitter assembly, everything, mounting screws, you essentially run out of room on the RMR footprint for the window housing to sit in there. So you have to then extend it forwards and then have it come over the top with that giant lip that the SRO has. You can see it on the RMR HD too. That is a limitation if you're doing a top-mounted 2032 battery on an RMR footprint. The 507 comp fixes that by doing the transverse mounted 1632, but that also might contribute to some of the lack of brightness that red dot has, and that is not a desirable thing either. The Defender XL has a Delta Point Pro footprint, so it's big enough to do all this stuff. You have a top-mounted 2032 battery, not that much of an overhang on the window, and it gets incredibly bright. I just wanted to give some shine to the Delta Point Pro footprint and say, hey, we should take a look at this maybe and say this could be the way to do it in the future? Question mark? Let me know what you guys think in the comments. Battery life is quoted to be similar to the SRO. I haven't really had this one long enough to notice that it's going to die midway through the year, but I'll keep you guys updated on that. So as far as the dot itself goes, we have a 5 MOA red dot here. No circle reticles or anything like that, which I appreciate. But the 5 MOA dot is something that I looked at, just like the mounting footprint, as like, okay, I can deal with that, but I kind of wish I didn't have to. I'd prefer a smaller dot. And just like the mounting footprint, it's something that I've kind of come around on. I really don't mind the 5 MOA dot at all. I've found that the 5 MOA dot, it doesn't seem to jitter around so much as like the 1 MOA dot. Like you just notice less movement in it, which soothes the brain a little bit. If you're shooting, you know, a small plate at 50 yards or something like that, or like an IPSC at 100 yards, yeah, I noticed that the dot's pretty big on the target, but I never have noticed a performance decrease. I wouldn't let the 5 MOA dot sway you away from this dot if you're feeling kind of weird about it. Aesthetics on the Defender XL, I don't mind the white logos as much as I do on the Holosun, but yeah, I just wish we could do without this. I'm gonna put some tape over this once I'm done with this video. I like the window shape. The tall square window is very cool, especially on the DWX here. I really like how the inner side of the window is perfectly lined up with the side of the slide. I just think that this whole setup looks really good. It works with my brain really well. I like the shape of the window. I like the size of it. Very, very nice. Now on the front of the window, we have this interesting thing that's on all of the Defender red dots. It's this kind of serration, like almost meat tenderizer texture on the front of the window. I don't really know what the point of this is. I guess if you're racking the slide off the front of the optic, you have a little bit more texture on there to help you do that, but it's never been a problem without this, but I guess we're not losing anything by having it, so whatever. It gives it a distinct character, and I don't mind that, so sure. There's not very much online intelligence about the durability of this optic, but I don't foresee any issues. Again, the structural integrity of this big square has been very well proven, and the optic itself seems extremely robust, so I wouldn't worry about the durability too much. The window itself is exceptionally low distortion. almost better than any other pistol red dot I've ever used. The clarity of the glass is superb and the distortion is absolutely non-existent. Just like the SRO, we have left side brightness up and a right side brightness down. These buttons are smaller but more tactile than the SRO. On this red dot, we have 10 brightness settings. We have 8 daylight settings and 2 night vision settings. That's 2 more daylight settings than the SRO and the 507 comp, which I love. You've heard me complain a lot about the lack of granularity on the brightness settings for some of these dots, but I think the Defender XL does it right. You have a lot of options in terms of hitting just the right brightness for your lighting conditions. One of the things that I want to give the biggest props to on the Defender XL, I think I've already mentioned it, it is the brightness of the dot itself. The Defender XL gets brighter than any of the other dots that we have here today. The top brightness setting is incredibly bright. In broad daylight out here in the winter snow, it is perfectly bright. I really like the above and beyond brightness on the dot here, and it signals a appreciation and an attention to actual shooters, kind of the antithesis of the circle reticles on the 507 comp. Now, one negative that I want to point out about the Defender XL, in my experience on this setup right here, after just 1 or 2 magazines, I will get this crazy splash of carbon coming up out of the ejection port that lands directly on the glass in this big sideways black streak. That doesn't negatively affect my shooting performance per se, but it is extremely noticeable and quite annoying. I think the culprit for this is that there is not really a lip on the bottom of the window here to protect against splash from the ejection port there. It might just be this setup on the DWX where you have the ejection port like right there in front of the window, but you can see that there's no boss or anything to protect against that kind of thing. I wish that there was something there to actually stop that splash. Again, not a huge problem, but something that I notice a lot and that I have to spend a lot of time cleaning. So that's something to consider. I don't know if other people have had that experience on other setups. Let me know in the comments if you have. MSRP on the Defender XL is $599, which is pretty high, but online I've seen them at like $360, and I've heard of them as low as $250, which is incredible. This is amazing at that low of a price, and it makes it incredibly competitive against the 507 comp. Okay, some final thoughts. The SRO, like many others, I think I'm kind of done buying this dot. I like the optic and I have a mostly positive personal history with it. If I pick up a pistol and it has an SRO on it, I'm happy about that. Considering the price though, the Trijicon name is not worth it in this case. For some people, the second kind of cool of having the SRO on their gun will kind of make this decision for them, but for the discerning buyer in 2025, I would not recommend it. I hope at some point that there will be an SRO HD that will make a meaningful update on the SRO pattern, considering the threats from the rest of the market. Okay, the 507 comp. So this does everything that I like about the SRO with some better user experience features and for less money. If you are looking for an open emitter RMR pattern red dot, this should be, I think, at the top of your list. I think I like the RMR HD a little bit more than the 507 comp as far as open emitter RMR footprint red dots go, but the HD is over twice as expensive as the 507 comp, and it is not twice as good. So if you want a big window RMR footprint dot and you're not set on the SRO for second kind of cool reasons, then you should get the 507 comp. Okay, finally, the Defender XL. This is a thoroughly impressive optic. I'm really, really impressed with the quality of the glass. I'm super happy with the brightness, the presentation, the size of the window, the shape of it, everything I really, really like. This is a great red dot, considering their history with especially the pistol red dots. They should be really proud of this. I wish there was some kind of lip on the bottom of the window to stop ejecta from the ejection port getting up into the window. This DWX here is kind of my primary competition gun, so I'm gonna be shooting this a ton, and I'm gonna be letting you guys know my continued thoughts on the Defender XL. Okay, that's the show. Thanks guys for watching. If you guys have any questions about any of the optics on the table here, let me know in the comments section. Like the video, comment, subscribe. I'm gonna go edit this video and play Helldivers. Not necessarily in that order. Thanks.
I fight for Super Earth.